Hi everyone, how are you? My name's Chris Quinlan, and this is a rather sad face chook because I'm doing a remembrance and dedication to Neil Peart, who we lost last week, one of the greats of drumming. And basically, I think everyone's shattered about the fact that he's passed away at only 67 years of age because of what is essentially, there's a medical term for it, but it's essentially a type of brain cancer. And I think the drumming world is in mourning, in shock, everything that can go with that. And the thing is, it's sad. It's just really sad that someone that is so influential has been taken from us so early, really, even though he had already retired officially from Rush, which was his main band, of course, and all that sort of business. But at the same time, I want to try and get out of that and actually just celebrate everything that he's taught us as drummers and all that. I have my notes. I've got some stuff worked out for everybody. There's an outpouring of love for this man in the sense that you just type it in to YouTube and you've got all these drum covers and everything and interviews. And it's one of the drummers, like last year, I did a tribute to Vale the Ginger Baker, right? But everybody knows that he was a scallywag. And all that sort of stuff. So you could have a little bit of fun with it and all that sort of stuff. This is something else. This is one of the icons of drumming who's just left us. So with this show, I just want you to help me out here because I'm going to have a bit of trouble. And he was so influential. Anyway, I'm not going to let it get to me. I'm going to actually start talking about all the stuff he's given us. What I started out with, I didn't do my usual for a hard-earned thirst, need a big cold boot and all that sort of stuff. But I might get there because it's going to be fun. We've got to have fun with it. What I started off with was that is one of the most iconic intros to an instrumental in rock history. I was telling Magda, hello Magda, how are you? Just last night, I said, YouTube, Rush in Rio, YYZ. Bang. And you've got thousands and thousands of people just jumping up and down. And they're not singing the lyrics, they're singing the guitar solo to the beginning. And as soon as Neil Peart started that on his crotales and all that sort of stuff on his left-hand side, depending on what side his revolving stage was, the roar went up. Everyone knew what it was. It's as iconic as... See? It's like that. And then you're off. You know, it's crazy good. I've got my samples on because I'm going to come back to that. So what I'm going to do is actually look at all the notes I've put together for it. Half of this I know, but I just wanted to make sure of everything and all that. So I'm going to talk about Neil Elwood Peart, a Canadian musician and writer, best known as the drummer and primary lyricist of the rock band Rush. I'm going to get into that in a bit because I've been putting up stuff on my Facebook page the last few days, because the thing is, of course, we're going to talk about his drumming, but his lyrics, and he wrote books, and all that, brilliant. He was born on the September 12th, 1952. He passed away January 7 last week, 2020. He's got just about every drumming award imaginable. He's inducted into the Hall of Fame way back in 1983. Okay, youngest person ever to get that award. Okay, this is we're talking people like Buddy Rich and John Bonham and everybody else that we love and adore, Gene Krupa and stuff. I mean, Peart's got all the same stuff, and he was the youngest to get it. There you go. He was born in Hamilton, Ontario. Grew up in Port Dalhousie, Ontario. And anyway, basically he just started drumming. He joined Rush in 1974 for their second album, Caress of Steel, after John Rutsey, the original drummer, left. And he always called himself, well, I'm the new boy. So there you go. And there's that. So that's what happened there. And he ended up being, before he joined Rush, he wanted to be a drummer. He went across to England. It didn't work out. He came back home with his tail between his legs, and he worked for his dad, all of that sort of stuff. But he was a voracious reader and all that. And when he joined Rush, the other boys in the band, Alex Lifeson on guitar and Geddy Lee on bass, they weren't that interested in the lyrics. They just wanted to do the music. So they left it to the new guy. Left it to him. And what he did with lyrics, amazing and all that. Now, there's a certain little bit of controversy with their breakthrough album. Let me go through it. There was the Rush's first album with the aforementioned John Rutsey on drums. Then the new guy, Neil Peart, joined for Caress of Steel. And, it's escaped me, but the next album came out. But the breakthrough album was 2112. Help me out here. Type it in. Anyway, so there was that one. Fly By Night, thank you, with the owl on the cover. Oh, anyway, it's live. There you go. But then the breakthrough was 2112, okay? And 2112 was a dystopian almost storyline. And the thing about this, I'll do that. And the big thing was,
we have assumed control.
Okay.
We have assumed control.
That's the ending of it, you see. So what happens is it's about Big Brother taking over, basically. He was influenced early on by the controversial author Ayn Rand. That's how I first came to know about Ayn Rand. And one of her famous books was The Fountainhead. There's a famous film out there with Gary Cooper. Fountainhead, and it was all about individualism and all that, and it was a great read, don't get me wrong, but it's controversial because some of her stuff has been hijacked by the alt-right, as they say, and that's quite controversial. Later on in his career, Neil Peart actually distanced himself from that, and I actually understood it in the sense that there's that. Sometimes, things get sort of twisted a little bit. But that was one of his first influences. He put it on the album cover and things like that, as thank you to, all that sort of business. But what happens is another one of my mates out there, Scott Haywood, how are you? Scott is a big Rush fan, and he's sent me some excerpts from 2112 that he wants me to do, and I'm doing that this weekend. We've got a little thing called the One Take Charlies. So what happens is Scott will send me some beautiful Leo Kottke stuff. I'll butcher it with some drums, and we put it all together. And so he sends me a bit, I put a bit on it, and then we put it out, and there you go. So there's a couple of bits up there, but we've gone a little bit Rush in dedication, and that's that. But I'm going to get into some technique stuff, because I'm doing a lot of talking behind this drum kit, which, of course, has an influence with people like Terry Bozzio, all that, the melodic prog drummers, Barry Barlow from Jethro Tull, Doane Perry, who was of Jethro Tull, the drummer for Jethro Tull right up until about 2012, who was a great friend of Neil Peart, and you can see them together on YouTube. I think it was thedrumchannel.com and all that sort of stuff. Brilliant stuff, beautiful people. And so what happens is with prog rock, you've got to be melodic, right? So this is one of the reasons why I've got this on this side. Okay, so there you go. And there's all that sort of stuff. But what goes on... Now what I've got is there's this on the left. Now, Neil Peart had a wraparound drum kit, right, with a revolving stage, all that sort of stuff. And what it was when Rush got into the 80s with albums like Power Windows and Hold Your Fire and all those albums, there was a lot of electronics happening. And with that, what goes on is that he did a lot of electronic drums. So, imagine this being a semicircle, okay? And then when they went to those albums from that era, basically the stage would turn around, he'd turn around, like that, and play the electronic side, sort of thing. Now, to explain some of the things that he would do during these kinds of things, I'm going to start off by giving you a couple of technical things, okay? Just to latch onto and hold on to. Some of his signature licks and all this sort of stuff. And sounds, funnily enough. Now, the first thing, and back to Scott, you asked me about hi-hats. Yes, Neil Peart's use of hi-hats. Really quite, he made it his own, the hi-hat kind of stuff there. Like, what would happen is just the open hi-hat, right? So, that kind of business there. Now, I'm going to give you a little thing. I've done it before. It's a bit of a John Bonham lick, and Neil Peart's great heroes were my great heroes, given that I'm only 7 years behind him, and all that as far as age. But the thing about it is John Bonham, Keith Moon, Ginger Baker. I've done shows on all three. So a lot of this is going to be conceptual continuity, to quote Frank Zappa, right? And Terry Bozzio did a wonderful tribute to him, saying I first saw Neil Peart when Terry Bozzio was in the last incarnation of The Mothers with Frank Zappa in 1975, and Rush supported Frank Zappa. So everything's like that, you see. And same with the techniques and all this sort of stuff. So this is something I want you to hold on to throughout this face chook dedication. I'm going to start with I'm talking about the hi-hat, but let me get there. I'm going to start with the single stroke roll. Then I'm going to put the hi-hat on every right hand, right? What that does is every time, therefore, I put a left hand on the hi-hat, it's going to be open. See, there it is there. See? And then you shoulder it, put a bass drum to it, that kind of stuff there. So you get that. Drop me book. Oh. Anyway, there it is there. I put that. Where am I going to put that? I'll put it back where it was because I'm going to do some stuff for you. So that's the first thing, right? That hi-hat thing. So what starts to happen is that with your feet, it's like a little right-left. You see? And then you put it in. Am I going? Yeah, anyway, there it is there. So there's that, hi-hats, okay? You'll hear that almost everywhere. It's almost a signature thing for Neil Peart. And that's what happens there. Now, when we're doing a roll, he's big for the long rolls going down and all this sort of stuff. So, you've got your typical roll going down. This is the second thing I want you to look out for. Fine, okay. But then he puts notes inside notes, right? I've got a little exercise for you. This is something I've got in my second grade drum set manual. I'm going to take the snares off with this. Notes within notes, okay? So what happens is, essentially, before I start, I'll start with the single stroke roll again. Now, you have things called measured rolls. So if we're going to do, let's say, a 5-stroke roll, which is right, right, left, left, right, so you might have... then that quickly turns into a paradiddle diddle. You see him do that a lot, a paradiddle diddle. And it's right, left, left. So that kind of thing. But depending on how you do the sticking, it can also be called a six-stroke roll as well. So right, left, right, left, right. It sort of comes in together. I might put that back on, you know. So what happens is this. So I'm going to give you a little exercise. You can also, I'm jumping ahead. You can also do that as a ruff. Now, what a ruff is when you do that same thing, but with single strokes. That kind of thing there. Which is usually pretty good when you're dealing with floor toms and things like that, because you've got to do a bit of work. When you're on a snare drum, double stroke rolls are fair enough. You know, they're going okay. There's a lot of bounce on a snare drum, you know, that kind of thing. But when you get down to the floor toms, bigger skin, tuned lower and all that, the stick stays in the skin a bit. So sometimes roughs are better. But I still like doing double stroke rolls there. But this is the little exercise that I like to do a lot. I will take those off. I'm going to do 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So it's snare, call it a high, or you know what I mean. 5-piece kit inside the monolith here. Inside Doris. It's almost like an arpeggio. Double. Double. Now, build it up a bit. Got that? So it's just 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I did that just the other week. Once again, I'm big on continuity. All that sort of stuff. Now, that is going to be an in to some of the... that kind of thing there. Now, one of the things, let me just cover some of the signature sounds, right? Now, Neil Peart's famous for the open hi-hat stuff. That kind of stuff there. And then those fills. And then bell of the cymbal. That kind of stuff there. Now, for that, I'm now going to go I'll take it through bits and pieces. One of the reasons I don't do drum covers and things like that is because of the way that we basically, once I put the show on air, I'm going to have some copyright issues and things like that, and with YouTube they'll put a copyright warning and all that. And at the same time, there's a million drum covers out there of the great man. He's so influential. But what I'm going to do, because this is essentially an educational show, is the sense that I'm going to pull La Villa Strangiato from the Hemispheres album to bits for you, okay? But I'm just going to talk it through. Homework, go away, listen to it. I mean, I can't replace this man. I can't sit down and say, oh, I could have done this better, or anything like that. Stuff that for a joke, you know, that kind of thing. What it is his writings, the things that he did. It's all about finding, there's a song called Finding Your Own Free Will, you know, sort of thing. His mind is not for rent, you know, to any god or government, from Tom Sawyer, okay. Well read, Mark Twain, you know, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, you know, free spirit. So you do your own things, you know, and we learn from these men, you know, you learn from them. So La Villa Strangiato is their famous instrumental. It is a masterpiece in instrumental music. It starts off with Alex Lifeson, the first part just coming in, and the section is called Buenas noches, mein Freunds. And it comes in, and then the second bit where the main kind of thing starts to come in is to sleep, perchance to dream, which I believe is Shakespeare. And then comes in with the hi-hats. Hi-hats. There's your aforementioned opens. And one yana. I'll slow it down. 1 yana, 2 yana, 3 yana, 4 yana, 1 yana, 2 yana, 3 yana, 4 yana, 1. That's thing. Then you've got a little bit of a calypso-ish thing. Then the snare drum. What's that? It's about, how much have we got of that? That's about 12 bars, I think. And then comes in with the snare drum on 4. At this stage, it's played quite softly, piano. So you go bum, 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 bum. Oh, that's too hard, Chris. Come on. Bum, 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 bum. Ah! And then you've got that, and then you've got the main theme coming in, okay? Alex Lifeson comes in. It's not like a big, gigantic fill-in to come to the theme. It's Alex Lifeson coming in with 4 bars of going bam, 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 bam. And here's the strangiato theme here, and it sort of goes That's that bit there. That's a bit rough at the end, Chris. Jesus. Anyway, there you go. So that's that bit there. So you've got this bit. Okay, there's that bit there. And then there's the big fill going down. And so on it goes. Changes, they've played it like that came out. That rocked my little 1978 18-year-old ears when I got that home. And it took me ages to sort of, what's he doing here? What's going on there? And that's what goes on, you see. So there's that. And then the fill-ins come in, but then you get Exit Stage Left, the live album. They always did. There was a while there, they had this little thing where every 3 albums they put out a live album. And it seemed like that was their little period of that bit. Okay, so I had All the World's a Stage on cassette with a professor on the drum kit. Lakeside Park, rocking in the breeze. That sort of stuff. I just remember that bit. Bastille Day. That's when Geddy Lee was singing right up in the rafters there. And what happened is there's all that. And what goes on is that there's that bit there. And this is the other thing, the bell of the cymbal. Paradiddle-like. There you go. Oh, must be. There you go. And that's that, coming into that. Then you've got the next section, section 4, a lurkst in Wonderland. Okay, lurkst, I do believe, is Alex Lifeson's nickname inside the band. Okay, and it's in 7/8, so Gina Lola Brigida. Okay, so it's still this, like this. It's essentially, if we're going to talk a normal 16th note rock beat, 1 yana, 2 yana, 3 yana, 4 yana. But what we've got is Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida. See that little sneaky double he puts in, right? And then a little piece of genius when I turned the page, because it took me ages to work this out when I was a kid. That goes through, and then it goes into a real quiet bit, and it's still in 7, but you've got almost like a linear feel, okay, with this, where every note is separated. So you've got So, what do we got? Okay, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida. That's that bit. And that goes on for a little bit of a while. And there you go. And it builds up, builds, until what happens then is you've got this thing, right? Now I'm going to go to a rock beat just to set it up for you. Here's a normal rock beat, right? Cool. Now I'm going to make it 16th notes, right? Boom. Now, left hand to the snare drum. Gina Lola Brigida, right? So Gina Lola Brigida, 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 Gina Lola Brigida. For those who don't know and maybe watching this for the first time, the regular guest on the show is the spirit of Gina Lola Brigida, the beautiful Italian actress. Now, Tony, you love me, then you leave me. That's famous, beautiful Italian actress from the 50s and 60s into the 70s. But her name is 7, right? Gina Lola Brigida. And it's a great way to count in 7/8, you see, which we're doing now. So that's just a little bit of a reference for newbies on the show. I say Gina Lola Brigida all the time. There you go. So Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida. Cool. There's that section. I've got to work fairly quickly now because I've got a lot more to do, and I don't mind if this is a 2-hour show. I'll keep on going until everything runs out, okay, sort of thing. I'm up normally, it's nearly 6:30 now, so normally I'd be wrapping it up, but I'm not. I'm going to keep on damn well going with this man. So what happens is we're into section 5, and it's still 7/8, but now he's doing the tom-toms, right? Now, the other week with Ian Bettridge, I did Little B with Brian Bennett and the Shadows, and with Gene Krupa, back in the day, it used to be called sort of jungle drums, right? So you get that kind of thing there. Now, to get into the next section, Monsters, that's what it's called, the 5th section. And it's still 7 though. So it goes, so 1, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, that is a 2/3 clave. It's a reverse clave, right? So you go 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Got it? So if I just played it, say, on the floor tom, we all know the Bo Diddley beat, right? So it goes bum, 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 bum. But it's backwards. It's reversed. Going too far forward here, but that's what goes on, you see. And there you go. So that's the famous bit. That's the exciting bit, right? Bam, bam, bam. And that's Geddy Lee's bass solo there. Keeps on going. All that sort of stuff. And big long roll. Can you see all the little bits and pieces, okay? The 3 main things that I'm sort of talking about. The rolls down the toms, the open hi-hat, all that sort of stuff. I'm coming back to the bell. One of the things that he does a lot also, Neil Peart, is do a little 4-E or a little E, like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, I missed. Like that. Now, one of the things that you want to get to know about this kind of stuff is that when you're dealing with offbeat and syncopated rhythms, one of the things you want to be able to do, it sounds simple, but try it sort of thing. But what happens is that you want to think in terms of right side crashes and left side crashes. Okay, so one of the things is it's a little bit like a footy player who can only kick with his right foot. So he gets into all sorts of trouble turning himself around to try and get onto his good foot kind of thing. Why am I thinking Austin Powers? Get on the good foot, baby. Rollicking good shag or something like that. That's the thing about Rush. They were funny guys. They used to send themselves up. There was smiles. There was jokes. There's everything. So that's the thing that buoys us, that brings us back from the brink. It wasn't morbid. It was just laughter, love, fun, that kind of thing. Serious lyrics. They made you think. All this brilliant, brilliant music, but always with a smile, okay? That's the thing. We've got to remember that. So that's the Irishman in me, being the wake, it's like a wake. We've got to laugh. Some of those things are hilarious, sort of thing. I lurched in Wonderland. I mean, where did that come from? Oh, let's do lurched in Wonderland. They're hanging shit on him. Oh, that's Alex's bit. You've got to do it. It's beautiful. That's why we love them. And then what happens is that when it comes out, the aforementioned, and that's what I'm talking about. When you're doing a single stroke roll, you don't want to sort of, you're swatting flies sometimes. Although sometimes you do it, that kind of thing. But, that's what you do. Oop! There you go. So that's that bit there. I'll move on from there because what happens is there's a lot of that going. Bum, bum. It's a bit of to and fro. It's call and response. There's the bass, there's the guitar, there's the drum. Bum, 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 jazz. That's called Danforth and Pape. And there's the, and that's his roll into that. And that's into section 7. This is a wonderful little thing because it almost sounds like they're playing drunk. It's sort of like... goes like that for a bit, and then it goes into the Waltz of the Shreves, and it goes 6/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it goes into 3/8 too. So this is an interesting little section. So you go bum 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 ba-da-da ba-da-da ooh ah ah. Now you could think of it like a bar of 6/8, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1, 2, 3, but it really just comes out 9/8, you see. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not playing that properly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like that. That goes for a while. Why say 7, 8, 9 when you can go ooh ah ah? And it means something. Ooh ah ah. Ah, beautiful. I like that a lot, that bit. And then it comes back. It's got, what you have is part 9 is Never Turn Your Back on a Monster. And it's essentially a blues beat with a great solo from Alex Lifeson there. It goes back into that beautiful little bit there. And then you're back into the strangiato theme. And so on it goes. All the same things. Marcus, you dirty double dip up. We'll get back into it. Cirrus Crown has just released a single today. Go buy it. Marcus's band and all that, lead singer. But the reason I bring you up, Marcus, is Neil Peart's doing the up fill-in that we've talked about. Oh, like that you got me to do the other week at your session there. Why not do that little fill? Okay, let's go back up. Lucky fill. And then you're back. Keeps on going like that. And then it goes all the way down, all the same stuff. Seven, 8, last bit. A farewell to things, which is a little bit of a reference to the album before, A Farewell to Kings. There it is there. And what you've got is 7, 8. Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida, Gina Lola Brigida. And that, my friends, is La Villa Strangiato. Okay. Lovely little love song, isn't it? There you go. What a brilliant piece of music that is. So please go away and check it out. Okay. This is a good little book. It's Drum Techniques of Rush by Bill Wheeler back in 1985. And always remember that bit there. The drum arrangements in this folio were prepared under the supervision of Neil Peart. Go get it if you can, if it's still out there. Anyway, what have I got here? All right. Now, the next thing, because I am keeping on going. Okay, so that's La Villa Strangiato. Okay, how am I going with everything? Yeah, everything's still rolling. There you go. So what happens now is I'm going to pull apart one of Neil Peart's solos. Now, Neil Peart didn't just do a solo, as in a drum solo, you know, that kind of thing. He did a piece of percussion music, okay? And the one I've picked, there's quite a few because he named them. He named them pieces, right? And on Rush in Rio, it's O Batterista, okay? Which means batteria, the drummers, okay? O Batterista, a drummer. But this one I picked, I don't know, I just went back to it because it was brilliant in the early 2000s and all that. And it's Der Trommler, which is German. And because Neil Peart is so widely read with his books and his lyrics and everything that he did, he based that term, Der Trommler, from the title, The Drummer's Tale by Brothers Grimm, an old thing. And I'm just going to give you the little bit of a, lowdown on this, if I can get it up there. Hang on, I'll get that. Oh, hang on. Oh, the wonders of live television. It is going to be on TV. I'm going to have a crack at 31 and see, because I've already delivered a couple of shows, but what I want to do is put this on next Wednesday night, if I can. So I've got to send them an email. But it's going to be up on YouTube either late tonight or tomorrow. Okay, everything that I'm doing here. So there's all that. And Der Trommler. Okay, so what I've got is he does it with electronics. So I'm not going to do that just yet. I'll bring that back in. He's got it comes off the song. Alex and Getty go off stage and it's like. And then it comes into a two-feel. A two-feel is... And then it changes. Goes into that for a little bit, and it's just your standard stuff. Now, at this stage, what we're talking about now is that in the mid-90s, in the mid-90s, he went to a very famous drum teacher, a bit of a drum teacher to the stars in Freddie Gruber, who had him change his style somewhat and all that. And you can plainly see it in his playing, okay, so there's that. And later on he went with Peter Erskine, and there's the famous tale that Peter Erskine got him to play nothing but a hi-hat for about a month, okay, and you know, just all the bits, all that. Peter Erskine being a wonderful jazz drummer. Most people would know him with his time in Weather Report in the late 70s, into the early 80s, pre-Omar Hakim, if I'm going to mention names, which is my job. Name as many people as possible so you can go off and chase them, all of that sort of stuff. But what happens is that with that, he actually does trading. He trades. Now, on Neil Peart's left-hand side, there's what's called a MIDI cat, which is essentially, it looks like an electric marimba or an electric xylophone. One of the things about this is that when he's playing, and this is one of the things I've also talked about in the past, you might be playing I've talked about that in the past with Budgie from Susie and the Banshees, very different kind of drummer, but brilliant nevertheless, and Rob Hurst from our own Oils, where you can do a fill-in, and it's not the cosmic downbeat or anything like that. You're actually putting the backbeat into the fill-in. So you might be going, I'll do the 4 on the floor, right? And this is what Neil Peart does in the trommler. But then, he's got this going. Now, I've got a little hi-hat tambourine there, but when I'm listening to it, that's an electronic, basically an electronic drum kit kind of hi-hat, because it's quite prevalent. But then what he does is he sort of goes into double-stroke rolls. So basically... And when I'm talking about the MIDI cat, I've got these piccolo toms. So, he's trading twos. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that anyway. And there you go. So there's that bit there. It's African in nature. All that. So from that, I'm going to put in my triggers, because they come up. He's actually doing them, right? Ho ho. There we go. I'll turn it down a bit. So. I'm doing a 2-feel, sorry about that. does all that. Then he just goes back into a snare style, a snare drum solo. There's a little bit of a ritardando there. It starts slowing down. And he goes into a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Sounds like the Terminator there. I'll be back. There it is there. All with stuff going on in the background, you see, like sound effects and like I've got the little bits of electronics and stuff. And there's that. Now, the funny thing, the reason why I stopped, because when I was researching it and having a bit of a look at it, he was doing it backwards. He was actually doing this, right? He's going left, right, right, 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 which is very different because of the aforementioned electronics. One of his pedals was going all electric on him. But for me to emulate the sound, I've got, once again, the tambourine, hi-hat tambourine, and then away we go with that. So it's like 1, 2, 3. Goes on with that. Brilliant. And then he actually does a 7/3 there. So you can sort of hear it. And he talks about it in one of the magazine articles about that, you know, a polyrhythm of 7/3. So 7, again, Gina Lola Brigida. But if we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Ah, 1, 2, 3. Oh, let me get it right. Ah! Nearly! Nearly! And after he does that, he gets into the presses. And then he brings in the open hi-hat again. Does all that. And then he goes right, left, right, left, right, left. And a la Keith Moon, which is also one of his big influences. That's what Keith Moon used to do, right? I did that show about 5 months ago. So on it goes like that. Then he goes into the lick of the century, and Brucey baby, Brucey Aitken, you said, what the hell is the lick of the century? Basically, that's my name for this, right? If you couldn't do that, you were nothing. Because Neil Peart's so big on the open hi-hat, why not I incorporate that? Because what we've still got is the Bonham hi-hats, right? So you got them. Now I better just quickly explain it again. Floor, high, foot. Done as fast as you can go. But the secret weapon is the hi-hat, right? Don't ever lose that, okay? And so what happens is you've got that with the right foot. Bring that in. Bass drum. I'll slow it down, actually. See what I'm doing there? Then you move it around. Now how about I do a triangle here? Now you're doing that, I'm doing 4 here, 3 there, or 3. 19. That's what you got there. Lick of the century. There it is. Beautiful. Now, we can't get away without doing a bit of cowbell. I've got it on my foot here, but Peart's got this. So you've got this kind of... For this, I've now got my left foot on the left side kick pedal, and my right pedal is playing the cowbell. And 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eh. 7/8 ostinato call with the another call and response, but he's doing 7/8 ostinato here, right? Now I've got hits everything all at the same time. Of course you've got to. It's a solo after all. He gets to the end. He gets to the end, and you know what he does? You got to have a gong. Ah, isn't that beautiful? That's the trommler. Okay, there it is, Neil Peart. I'm going to finish off now. I haven't told you everything about his life. It's magical, but there's also tragedy. After he came back from the Test for Echo tour, 97, his only daughter died in a car crash, Selena. And I'll probably go to water again now. Although I did enjoy doing that. That was good. That's good. It's food for the soul, and that's what it is. But what it is his wife Jennifer it broke her heart, and she passed away with cancer again 10 months later. He lost his whole family. And Neil Peart always said, she just died of a broken heart. And we all know, we've all been there. But we carry on, that kind of thing. I lost my brother to cancer last April, so I know how he feels. And that's not going away. My eldest brother's gone, Dad's gone, everyone's gone. It's just me here now, that kind of thing. But I've got my family in South Australia. I've got dear Valmay, Gary and the nephews, all that sort of stuff. But you're never alone. We're all in it together, as I say. But what Neil Peart did was he just got on his bike and rode, and he put out a book called Ghost Rider. The first part of the book was absolutely tragic because he had to fight the urge just to drive off the road at every curve until he healed, until he was able to see light again, that kind of thing. So, what I'm going to do now is start to wrap the show up. He got back on the horse, so to speak. He got back on his bike. He found happiness again, sort of thing. He married a lady by the name of Carrie Nuttall, and they have a daughter. They survive. Sorry, I'll get it right. Carrie Nuttall and daughter Olivia, and there it is there. As I said, he reinvented his playing style with Freddie Gruber and Peter Erskine and all that stuff. He announced his retirement in December 2015. I've talked about his solos. I haven't talked about his lyrics because I'm going to put some stuff up later on. I've already been doing it through the week. But some of the things that he does is some of the things that he's written is quite brilliant. And I started the show with one of the classic introductions, which is this. There it is there. You know what that is? That's the Toronto, Canada, Toronto Airport call sign in Morse code. And when they heard it, Alex Lyson, the guitarist, was going for his pilot license and he was flying in, and you have to do that, sort of Toronto International Airport. And they said, what a great rhythm. Let's use it. And it became YYZ, because that's the code. YYZ, I'll read it. YYZ is the airport identification code of Toronto Pearson International Airport near Rush's hometown. There it is. There it is there. And the thing about that, and this is what I'll finish off with, because I am running out of tape and time, is the fact is that every time they heard that, they loved it because they knew they were home. There's that. That's the call sign for their hometown. And let's send him home. I'm going to do this now. Maybe I won't do that one. I'll leave that. Now I've got this. I've got this from Ghost Rider. This book. Take care. Okay? This is my dedication to Neil Peart. Really hard to do this, but I found joy in it. It's beautiful, what he's left us. So I'm going to leave you with this. Don't forget that. He's home.
Chapter 3, North to Inuvik. The point of the journey is not to arrive. Anything can happen. Prime Mover, 1987. Parking my motorcycle in front of a motel at the end of a long day on the road could certainly be sweet, like finally exhaling a breath I had been holding all day. But best of all was setting out in the morning. Whatever torments the night had brought, whatever weather the new day threw at me, when I loaded up the bike and swung my leg over the saddle, my whole perspective changed. Focus tightened into the mechanics and mentality of operating the machine, and awareness contracted to that demanding paradigm. Then, as I let in the clutch and turned the throttle, my worldview expanded as I moved into a whole new paradigm of landscapes, highways, and wildlife. Infinite possibilities. Travel writers often feel compelled to try to explain and justify the difference between being a tourist and being a traveler. They cite the etymology of travel in the French word travail, labor, and point out that any independent journey outside the well-worn tourist routes requires extreme will and endurance simply to keep moving forward. One of the most indefatigable of serious travelers, Paul Theroux, explains that after one of his journeys, he hasn't had a vacation, he needs a vacation. But for most of his readers, the armchair travelers, it's only the vicarious, pristine experience they want to share, not the unhygienic, exhausting reality. So many people feel trapped in the workaday predictability of their lives, and their frustrations and dissatisfactions can be simultaneously stimulated and soothed by a nonspecific fantasy of getting away. But like all fantasies, this dream vision remained free of consequences, and that alone was the deep, cold distinction between fantasy and reality. No consequences. Watching a movie or reading a novel might make you feel sad or frightened or inspired, but at the end of that experience, nothing has actually happened in your life. The experiences of real life were not like that, as I had certainly come to know. The fantasy image of a free spirit drifting without care or effort through some IMAX movie of breathtaking scenery not only ignored the darker possibilities, breakdown, accident, injury, death, it also omitted the simple joy killers of bad weather, indigestion, toothache, or diesel in your fuel tank. Anything can happen, and scenery is never neutral. So if I always felt a quiet thrill as I set off into the mysteries of a new day, it was often tempered by such realities, both potential and immediate. Leaving Muncho Lake before 6 o'clock on a chilly, overcast morning, for example, the danger was potential, but the cold was immediate. I wore my full foul-weather outfit of long underwear under the armored leather suit, heated vest and hand grips on full, thin balaclava under my full-face helmet, and the plastic rain suit over it all to help shield me from the cruel wind. A different journey was beginning as I left behind the relatively secure environment of highways and cities and struck off into remote areas of rough roads and widely scattered little settlements. From that day on, I felt less like a traveler and more like an adventurer, or misadventurer, for I was very much aware that out here the consequences of pilot error or accident were increasingly severe. Fear was my co-pilot, and there was much to worry about now, in both imagination and reality.